Hey, welcome to the Worship Leader Toolbox, where our mission is to equip and encourage local church worship leaders from around the globe. We're excited to have you here today for a conversation and interview with Grant Norsworthy, speaker, musician, worship leader, and mentor from New Zealand. We will join in this great conversation in just 30 seconds or so. Welcome today. So glad to have Grant Norsworthy with me on the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast. And so how are you doing, Grant?
I'm doing really well. Thanks a lot, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so glad to. Setting up this podcast, my brain got boggled because it's 2 o'clock here in the afternoon, and you are in tomorrow already, 9 a.m.
Yes, that's right. I lived in Nashville, Tennessee for 17 years, and I'm born in Australia. That's where I'm from originally, but I'm now speaking to you from the future in New Zealand. So it's 9 o'clock in the morning for me, and 2 o'clock yesterday for you. But Isn't that weird? But we get used to it. There you go.
Yeah,
the world's revolving.
The dateline, it's pretty amazing. So I'm glad you're here. We connected. I've known about your name for a long time, and then I saw you at a worship conference, and then this fall I connected with you out of the blue, sort of, just asked you to be a part of the Awakening Worship Conference, and you were, and appreciated your part in that. And so I thought today we could just talk a little bit further about worship ministry in general, let people connect. But
sure.
first,
And I think the exciting thing about this is both Tim and I, we together, and we're passionate about the worship of God. We're passionate about music as one of the ways of worshiping God. And we're trying to use whatever skills that God has given us, whatever experience God has given us to train others or to help others. And so, if you're in that realm in some form, this is the right podcast for you to be listening to.
Yeah, that's good. I love it. So fill us in a little bit about your background and where, the different seasons of your life in a nutshell. So.
Oh, golly. Okay. You got me talking about myself. That could be a problem. Born in Melbourne, Australia, and raised in the church, rather Baptist, conservative leaning church, very sort of straight up and down organ, piano, choir sort of music, but was playing piano and brass instruments all through my growing up years. And my mum, she led choirs, she played organ and piano, but music never really connected with me all that much until I put all those instruments down and picked up a bass guitar at the end of high school. And then rather than reading notation, I started listening to music that I really enjoyed, which was more rock, and pretty quickly decided I want to have a career in music. That's tough to do in Melbourne, Australia. Now I was even at that stage, I would say that I was a serious follower of Jesus. I was committed to hoping, whatever I was going to do, I wanted to bring glory to God. That's the language I would use now. I probably didn't know that language back then as a 19-year-old. But yeah, just sort of started on that path, playing bass guitar in bands that were hopefully pointing people towards God. Original bands that were trying to lead people in church services and youth events and things like that. Long story short, ended up forming a band called the Paul Coleman Trio, built around our lead singer, Paul Coleman, PC3. That was 98. Wow, going back a long time. That band put out a bunch of albums. On the strength of the success of that band, we managed to relocate to Nashville, Tennessee in 2002. And that was more of a performance band. Certainly we were singing songs that were pointing towards God, and a lot of those songs were, even the lyrics were prayers to God, but we weren't putting the words on the screen. We weren't asking people to sing every word of every song, just a hit song we might ask them to sing. We were performancey. And when that band broke up, as bands do, I found myself playing bass guitar in Sonic Flood. Some people might remember Sonic Flood. They were a hugely successful band. But I joined after they were hugely successful. We still did a lot of touring, put out another album with that band. And now there was this contrast, like all the songs were sort of prayer songs and the words about God are on the screens. And I was being told now that I was in a worship band, quote unquote. That's what it was called. And I was like, this is the different thing. I learned a lot during my 3 years playing bass guitar with that band. When I finished with Sonic Flood, and this is about the same time as my first son arrived, not me on my own, my wife Brooke and I started having kids. Max is 13 now, but I realized that this, being a bass guitarist, sort of jumping in a van or a tour bus or a plane and flying around the place, wasn't really the game for a couple with kids. It's actually even tough on a marriage, by the way, if you're listening. But yeah, so from that time, sort of like late 2007, I just started presenting myself to the Christian church as an independent speaker and teacher who could grab a guitar. I had a capo. I learned 4 chords. You know, I could play some songs too. And that's just developed over the years to now where I'm doing a thing called More Than Music Mentor, which I guess is similar to what you're doing with Harvest. You know, morethanmusicmentor.com is where you can find out about that. And it's providing online and on-site training for the heart and the art of worshiping musicians. I still do quite a bit of travel, but I travel more so to speak at church services or events or conferences. And with COVID, that's changed quite a bit to be more online.
Yeah.
And loving and grabbing opportunities like this. So yeah, I'm really passionate to help music be utilized more effectively by the Christian church as an expression of worship.
That's awesome. So I know a lot of that's a great summary right there. I appreciate you sharing that. And
I hope it wasn't too long. I love
98
talking
does
about myself too much. Sorry.
98 does not seem that long ago, but when you start talking about it, I guess it is back there. But it's just funny because it's
Yeah.
so in your memory. So you do this just for the sake of people who might be interested in ministry. You do this full time as far as More Than a Music Mentor.
Yeah, More Than Music Mentor. I mean, me as a speaker and a musician, and I also advocate for children in poverty around the world. In the United States, that's through compassion.com.
Mm-hmm.
Different in New Zealand, that's through World Vision. Just 2 great organizations who do things slightly differently, and I love what they both do. So yeah, as an educator, as a teacher, I really feel like it's important that we give people a chance to respond to what we're trying to teach. You know, I think one of the problems in the Christian church perhaps is that we hear a message that should change our lives, but then nothing is asked of us. You know, we
Yeah.
just leave and, well, what's for lunch? You know, what's on TV? We just get on with our lives, and it really should change something in us. So I love giving people a chance to respond to something. So yeah, full time, a speaker, a musician. A big part of that speaker and musician is More Than Music Mentor, and I also advocate for children in need.
Yeah.
That's what I do full time.
There's a little growing thing in me that it's almost like there's the pecking order of the top of the line of ministry roles. And it's like if you're a pastor in a church and you're being effective, that there's like this cultural sense among the church that that's not enough. You need to write in a blog or write a book or go speak. I would hate for the cultural thing to be, unless you're doing your own ministry somehow reaching the world, that you're not effective as this person in a church. So I just didn't know if you
Yeah.
might have any thoughts about that as somebody who has, spent a lot of their career, being in the global church as opposed to the one church you're serving.
Yeah, look, I try to remind myself of some pretty basic fundamental things when we have this sort of discussion. And, I'm an Australian bass player, so it's got to be simple. And we just have to, we have to leave it to God to measure the heart. We have to leave it to God to measure things that we people can't see. So the Bible tells us, I wish I had the verse to quote for you. I should, but, God looks on the inside, but we people, we look on the outside.
Yep.
And it's very, very easy for us to confuse success with significance. I
Yep.
think a lot of us chase success when actually what we should be chasing is significance, and not significance in a human sense, but significance in a kingdom of God sense. And maybe the person cleaning the toilets is actually more significant in the kingdom of God than the person with the million-selling album. Maybe.
Yeah.
And it's just a worthy way of thinking about it. I think,
Yeah,
we
that's good.
can't look at any earthly thing and go, that is an indication that I am important and
Yeah.
I am doing something that's really good. No, I don't care whether it's how many people are in your church building on a Sunday morning, how many people received Christ, how many healings you had, how many people raised their hands, like that. All those things can be good, but we must not be getting our sense of worth from any earthly thing. We should be getting
Yeah.
our sense of worth from the cross of Christ.
That's true. That's good.
And that's a die to live thing. I want to be significant, and I'd rather be significant in 1 or 2 people's lives than successful in the eyes of millions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
But
really
then
good.
there's part of me that wants the success as well.
Well, it seems like
That's a very
people
human
are
of me,
always
but
fighting that. But I just think there's a lot of people who, they're being faithful to do what they need to do, and they don't need to go off and record this or write this or do that. They can, have significance where they're at, doing what they're doing with the people they're doing it for and with.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
there's
Yeah.
just,
And that's one of the cool things about what I found with, the pandemic here in 2020 is that I would prefer to do the sort of training that I do in person, actually be there in the room, but it was only bigger churches and bigger events that could afford to bring me, with their travel.
hmm
But now that I'm doing more and more of the training just online, like Zoom calls and stuff like that, I'm very happy to help anybody. Little tiny
good.
clunky church of 54 people.
Yeah.
Absolutely, let's set up a Zoom call. Let me have watch a video of your service. Yeah, I'll give a few tips there. Yeah,
Huh,
for sure. I
that's
think I can
good.
give you some actionable points, and it doesn't have to be only the cashed up church or event that can have me involved.
Yeah.
I love it.
That really is a change they'll probably stick. So,
I think so. I
um,
don't know that we're going to go back.
yeah.
Not entirely
It-
to the got to travel to be there.
Yeah. It may go back to, it'll definitely probably, there'll be this and that you go do the old way. And then there'll be a whole bunch of people are looking to the new way. And
Yeah,
it's funny because it's,
I'd still prefer to be in the room, but it's not always
yeah,
possible. That's why I think 2020 has actually been a great year. It's very easy for it to say 2020 has been a really bad, tough year. And I guess, granted, I've been in New Zealand where we have been insulated from a lot of the trouble that the United States is experiencing.
yeah,
But I feel like, wow, we have had to find ways of doing what we do and finding ways of pointing people towards God with all these changes happening. That's
yeah.
why I got really excited about the virtual choir stuff that I started seeing on the internet early this year.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because that was really awesome. So, "The Blessing" is a song you recorded, and I don't know if you recorded or tell us just about that because I saw the video of just, multitudes of people singing and playing instruments and putting it all together. I mean, it's just
Yeah, well, I'm hoping some of your listeners to this podcast have been aware that in 2020, a whole lot of virtual choir videos have been coming out. Now, virtual choirs are just a bunch of different singers who have videoed themselves singing a particular song individually and without ever meeting in the same room together. All those videos have been sent to a central, I don't know, Dropbox or, Google Drive or whatever. And someone's brought them all together in an editing and mixing process and released a video to Facebook and YouTube typically. And these virtual choir videos have been around for, I don't know, 10 years or more. But it's only in 2020 with the pandemic where the Christian church has grabbed this idea, because with restrictions on gatherings and things like that, we haven't been able to be in the same room singing worshipfully to God, And I love this, that, well, we can't do it physically. Let's do it virtually. Let's still find a way of singing together. So The Blessing is a song that actually came out of Elevation Church early in 2020. And then Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a bunch of different church leaders across there, and I don't know the story of it exactly, but they decided to do a virtual choir video singing the song The Blessing. And the lyric of the song, if you're not familiar with it, just sort of sings this passage from Numbers, which is a benediction that many of us in the Christian church know well, because it was usually said at the end of our services. May the Lord
mhm.
bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. And I saw the UK blessing and decided, wow, this is really taking off. Then I saw one from South Africa and Malaysia and Canada and New York City and Hawaii and the Bay Area. And there's probably I've seen more than 50 virtual choir videos of people of the Christian faith singing the blessing together. And if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube and do a search.
Yeah,
So I decided to see if New Zealand was making one, my new home. I'd only been living in the country for about a year. And no one was really doing one on a national level. So I just worked myself to the bone for 3 months and got a lot of help from some great people and put out the virtual choir video from New Zealand. We call it the Blessing Aotearoa, which is the Māori or the First People's name for New Zealand. The Blessing Aotearoa / New Zealand. And we just got to 500,000 views yesterday.
huh.
And I should not be getting my sense of significance from a number like 500,000 views of a YouTube video. But I tell you what, it feels good that people are connecting with this idea of people of the Christian faith who are very, very different from one another. You
Yeah.
know, different skin color, different ethnicity, different denominations, different age, different coolness levels, different vocal abilities, you know, all getting together because we want to sing God's words of blessing during a really rough year. I love it, especially because, I don't know, if you look at social media, this idea of being blessed is, I think we're turning into something way, way less than it's supposed to be. Oh, my children are so well behaved, blessed. You know, hashtag blessed. Have you seen this? I bought a new car, hashtag blessed. I got a promotion, hashtag blessed. Oh, we're selling this idea of the blessing of God way short if we think being blessed is simply when things go well for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and the thing I got from this people singing the blessing in these virtual choir videos is that we're realizing that being a blessing is actually more important. You know, people who are wanting to be more of a pipe rather than a container for God's blessing.
That
That's
is
why I
good.
love that song, and that's why I love being involved in the Blessing Aotearoa in New Zealand, because here's the Christian church wanting to be a conduit through which God's blessing flows. We want everyone to watch our video, and we're going to declare God's words from the Bible
Yeah.
that God is for you and not against you. And it might feel like things are against you right now, but God is for you. And I'm being amazed by the comments and stuff. People from outside the Christian church. You know, my brother-in-law, who doesn't connect with the Christian church, he loves that video. He's sharing it with all his, you know,
Yeah. All this.
all his friends, and they all seem to love it. You know, people saying, I don't really know anything about Christianity, but I love your song. What's going on here?"
Huh.
And that's, to me, is God's blessing flowing through it. It's exciting.
Yeah, I think it's awesome too. I'll make sure we attach that for anybody who's listening and hasn't seen it. But it is a good song. We sing it on Sunday at church. So that took, how long did it take to make that? I know it's probably hard timeline, but
Well, I thought it'd take about 3 weeks, and I thought I'd maybe get 30 video submissions because I was newly in the country, didn't really know many people, but I wanted to know them, so I thought this would be a good way to do it. But we ended up getting submissions from over 200 people, and it ended up taking 3 months. And there were a bunch of bumps in the road along the way, usually of a technical kind. But we were also really trying to be very intentional about integrating Te Reo Māori, which is the First Peoples language. We wanted to have New Zealand Sign Language in our video. We were
yeah,
looking to try and have it be a representation of the Christian Church of New Zealand that didn't wave our differences as like a flag, you know, but just very intentionally showed that we are a very varied bunch who all agree that we want to sing God's blessing together.
yeah,
And I think that's probably the best thing about it. You know, it's not the great vocal performances, even though there are some great vocal performances. It's not the great song, even though it is a great song. We replaced the drums and bass, you know, from Elevation's version with our own Kiwi drums and bass and keyboards and electric guitars and all that stuff. But what it actually is, um, wow, here's a bunch of people who are really different from one another who all agree on this.
so that,
This idea of being a blessing. That's what's
yeah.
cool about it.
What is some of what you described as like how music is one of the unifiers? How does it play
Oh
into the
yeah.
church?
I just have this strong belief that music is a gift from God. And like all of his gifts, and we could say that, you know, beautiful scenery is a gift of God. You know, the stars in the sky are a gift from God. You know, like I
Mhm.
believe God created everything. Maybe that makes me weird. I don't know, but I just believe God created everything. I wouldn't mind betting that most of your listeners would agree with that. But so I see music as a gift from God, and like all his gifts, this gift is given to help us know him better and know each other better, get along with each other better.
Yep.
And it seems to me that we humans have this tendency to take a good thing and pervert it, you know, use it for other purposes than God's intended reason. Music's no different, even music within the church. So when I grew up, there was this incredible tension between the people who loved keyboard-driven organ, piano, choir music, maybe orchestra, and those who wanted to have drums, bass, electric guitar, and a little bit more syncopation. You
Yep.
know, they called it the worship wars, quote unquote. You know, I remember an old lady coming up to me in my Baptist church and going, like, we tried as this little youth band. We must have sounded horrible, you know. We tried our best, but we presented these songs that we'd heard at youth events from going away from our home church and coming back and trying to bring some of those songs and some of that instrumentation. And the only PA we had in the room was a pair of Bose 802s hanging from the ceiling, which, if you're not in the know, that's just a little sound system suitable for the spoken voice, not for a rock band. It's
Yeah.
just not going to work. We had bass, drums, electric guitar, brass line, the whole kit and caboodle, 5 singers. Must have sounded horrible, but we tried. And this lady came right up to my face after the first service and said, "Grant, that was not worshipful." And as a 19-year-old kid, I didn't know what to do with that.
Huh.
But that was the end of the conversation. Like, what do you say to that? But if she had said, I didn't know those songs, it didn't sound very good, it hurt my ears, it was too loud, then they're sort of things that we can talk about. But when she says that's not worshipful, she's actually given herself the right to decide what God finds worshipful and what he doesn't.
That's
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the language was actually the bigger problem. Not that she didn't like the band that I tried to put together. I did my best. So yeah, since those days, when someone decided, well, let me put it this way. If there'd never been any change in church music over our history, we'd still be singing only in Latin, using 5 notes, only male voices in unison.
Yeah. That's true.
At every change, someone's got really upset and said, that's not worshipful. Let's add an organ. That's not worshipful. Let's have female voices. That's not worshipful. Let's have harmony. That is not worshipful. And people have always done the same mistake that Cain and Abel made, I think. My worship's better than your worship. And this is really reassuring to me that, we don't get to decide what God finds worshipful.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to something like music. So
True.
For me, it's this idea of, look, let's just agree that God will decide what's worshipful and what's not. Now, let's focus on getting a group of people singing songs that are actually prayers to him, that are truth to him, that are praises of God towards him. That for me is my objective. I want to get whatever congregation I'm in front of to sing, whatever people I'm in front of. So with the blessing video, you're right. It's sort of easier. I didn't say you need to answer this theological questionnaire before I accept your video.
Yep.
How ridiculous would that? There's people in the blessing video who would vehemently disagree with each other on some aspects of theology or how to interpret particular passages from the Bible. Okay, you disagree on that, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to sing this song together. Will you sing it? Yes, I will. Fantastic. Great. And I'm going to put you in a video next to someone who's a Catholic and someone who's the Seventh-day Adventist and someone who's a Pentecostal and someone who's an Anglican and someone who's like straight up and down Baptist and someone who's like fringy but has this sense that God loves them and Jesus is real. I just said, this is the Christian church coming together to sing these words that are from the Bible together. Will you do it? And then we get this picture of unity because we just sang together, you know. And
there's
it's such a freeing thing,
There's one saint somewhere way back there had the quote, "He who sings prays twice," and I don't remember who said that, but just the idea that singing not only connects you to words in a logical sense, it also connects you to this heart kind of like eternal, kind of different sense.
Yeah.
So both those together are really powerful.
And it's really sad to me that there is still a lot of tensions. It may not necessarily right now in 2020 be, for most of us anyway, about whether the songs are old or whether they're new. There's other battles, like I've found that some people prefer singing deep, correct, wordy theology in their songs, right? And then there's other people who are like, sing it till you feel it, sing it till you feel it, singing simpler refrains over and over again and sort of getting into almost I don't want to say a trance because that has negative connotations, but people who want to feel this singing just the name Jesus, Jesus over again, or something simple like that.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of both of those. It's not an either or, it's a both and. Yep. For me it is. And there's other different lines. I actually had the opportunity to form a band for a 3-night sort of outreach event this last weekend here in New Zealand. And I was asked by an area's pastors, one of them, a couple of them very Pentecostal, one of them very straight up and down Baptist, another one very Anglican, another very, you know, like all different pastors who have decided to come together and have this outreach event, all the different churches of a particular region. And they've asked me to form the band because I don't align with any of those particular denominations too hard. I'm very intentionally trying to be a minister of reconciliation. And
Hmm.
I knew that there'd be people from all those different congregations coming to these events, and we were inviting people who are nothing to do with the Christian church to attend as well. So I'm very carefully choosing the songs and how we're going to present them. And I form a band, you know, 1 or 2 people from the Pentecostals, 1 or 2 people from the Baptists, 1 or 2 people from the Anglicans, a person from the Presbyterian, whatever, pull them all together. And there was some tension, you know, some people saying, no, you've got to let it be more free. You know, you've got, don't tell us exactly what to play here, because if you do that, you're stifling the Holy Spirit. You know, you got to let the Holy Spirit. And it's like, I really do understand what you're saying, but that's your context. This context for these 3 nights, there's people who have nothing to do with the Christian church. We're going to focus on getting them singing songs,
Yep.
hopefully songs they know. And if they don't know them, simple enough for them to learn them. And we're not going to go off in some quote unquote spirit-led jam session because you think that's more worshipful.
Yep.
I think it can be more worshipful in a particular context and setting, but also it can be very worshipful to play the song simple, straight, inviting for all different sorts of people.
In the
And
right
that's the way I'm
key,
going to lead it.
with the
Beg your
right,
pardon?
in the right key, with the right
In the
setup
right
for
key,
the
yeah.
group to sing.
Yeah, get the people singing rather than choosing a key for the leading vocalist and having people enthralled by the sound of the leader's voice.
Yeah.
We're going to choose a key where every man, woman, and child can sing it. That's our focus. I'm not saying you're wrong to choose the key for your leading vocalist in your context. Go for it. But that's not the objective here. And please don't tell me that one way is more worshipful than another. Well, let's leave it to God to decide that.
Yep. And I've been in those. That's all great stuff. And I've been in those settings where I think music is also a gift, and that's a awesome way to look at it, and a unifier and a communication tool. I mean, it's an opportunity to, you know, sing to the Lord, but it's also a tool in general. I mean, like, if we're going to help people worship, then we've got to be willing to, you know, as one person one time said it was sing what's in the heart of the people. And so allow them to respond. And is just like the key, you can't pick songs based on your preference of, you know, the newest song, or, you know, whatever the requirement is for what you're thinking is going to be the best.
Yeah.
It's got to be, you know, with the people in mind, the congregation in mind. And that just really, that leads to a lot of things. One being that the worship team often will have you know, sing the song like 12 times before the congregation ever hears it. And then about, you know, 4 months later, they're totally done with it, and the congregation's only done it 3 times. So it's a kind of sacrifice to be the leader and say, we're going to help do that. But I also wanted to get to 2 things. One was the whole idea of preference. I think, like what you said, is right on. What people are, you know, the Christian, the church, the preference needs to not be based around which style, if it's more cerebral music or if it's more, you know, emotional based or whatever the definitions are. But really the preference needs to be around the reaching people for the gospel. I mean, like the heart of God in terms of, you know, pulling people in.
Almost every musical ensemble that you can think of, and I've been a lot of different ones, there's a particular response from the crowd, the audience or the congregation, as the case may be, that you're looking for to know whether you've done a good job or not. You know, like if you're playing in a funky disco sort of band, then you're hoping the dance floor is filled, right? You know, people jump on the dance floor, and I should be saying dance for you, shouldn't I? Yeah. But anyway, you'll know if people are not on the dance floor and you're in a funky dance band, you know you're not doing well. But if they fill the dance floor and they're dancing, you've done a good job. A heavy metal band, you want people pushed up to the stage, headbanging with their fists in the air. You know you've done a good job if that's happening. You know, wedding reception band, we want people talking over our music during the meal.
Yep.
They're happy and chatting. We're providing this background atmosphere. We're doing a good job. But then when it comes for the bridal dance, we want that to happen. And then we want the dance floor filled at the end of the evening. We want the bride's father and mother to be really happy. That's how we'll know we've done a good job. Well, in church music, our music as an expression of worship, we don't have that agreed observable goal, in my opinion. People are all tugging in different directions. Because
Yep.
if you say to a team of musicians, typical team of musicians, we got to play music so that God is worshipped. That means multiple different things to different people. Even in the same church building, even in the same band. Or they actually think, well, it better be this then. Or they don't know what it means. I've got no idea what to do with that. So I like to say this, and it's helped me a lot. Look, we definitely want God to be worshipped through what we play and sing here. But we also want God to be worshipped by all of us as a living sacrifice. And that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and 366 on a leap year. So let's understand these songs that we're going to present today are woven into a life surrendered in worship. We definitely want God to be worshipped. Absolutely. So within that context, what's a measurable goal that we're looking for? What's something that we can all agree on? And I love to focus on what you've just said, get the congregation singing. Then I don't have to have an argument with someone about the key choice, but I want it in this key because it helps my voice sound great. Oh, but we've agreed that we want to get the congregation singing, and the men won't sing it with you in that key. Not a single one of them, tenor guy, will sing that song in that key with you.
Yep.
Only the women will be singing on the same note as you. And we want everyone singing. So I'm sorry, you have to but here's the thing. If you've got a great high voice, sing a song and perform it and do that as an expression of worship. And we don't get to decide whether it was more or less worshipful. I would, however, say that the Bible does tell us to sing together. And the Bible I've not found where it says, listen to a great soloist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So it's all about context. I'm not here to say that Chris Tomlin chooses the wrong keys. He chooses the right keys for his context. Hillsong choose the right keys for their context. How can I judge?
Yeah.
But they are blurring the lines between concert performance and congregational singing. I think they're doing it intentionally. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I think God can be into a big show. But if you are in the trenches week in, week out, trying to lead your home congregation, you better have a different goal than giving people a great show every week. Mm-hmm. You've got to get them singing every week, singing good truth words that are prayers, praises of God. Get them singing those words together. And I would actually call that the higher joy that's possible through music. Not singing and playing in a way that satisfies you, not the songs you like and the key you like with instrumentation you like. I've been pretty good at that. I've actually got some awards for doing that really well. But what's actually more fun is getting out of the way, not making it about my preferences, and doing whatever it takes to get my congregation singing prayers to God. Yeah, more fun.
That is good. And I know some of the teaching you did for this worship conference was around some of that, and I've thought about that ever since you mentioned that idea that the measurable goal being something that everybody can actually look at, see, and know, and understand if it's working or not, and then the undergirding of conversations that helps with, and
absolutely,
like
we agree on what the goal is,
whatever.
Yeah, we agree on what the goal is. Then the what and the how get a lot easier. If we know what our why is, why are we having these songs? Why do we mix? Why do we have a PA? Why do we have screens with words on them? Because we want to get the congregation singing these songs. So then you can have, 62-year-old lady in the third row, Joe the plumber in the back row, senior pastor, mix engineer, projectionist, singers and instrumentalists. We all need to understand what the goal is. Make it absolutely clear. Yep. Yes, we want God to be worshipped, but on a human level, musical, technical level, what we want is the people to be singing. And so when a drummer is playing too loud or too busy, I don't have to say, I don't like your loud, busy drumming. I just say, hey, that would work in a different context, I'm sure. But right now we're trying to get the congregation singing, and have a listen to it now. You'll find that what you're playing is actually cutting across the rhythm, and it's actually hurting our ears. Do you think that'll help the congregation sing better? No, it won't. Yeah, I agree. So, that's what we need, man. That'll help. Let's test that. Oh, that was so much better. Thank you so much, drummer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
you've got to have that agreed goal before that. You know, you
Yep.
don't want people taking in different directions to one another.
Yeah, that is awesome. In our weird world here right now, at least in our state, we're not even supposed to sing in church. We're supposed to
Yeah.
like keep our mouths closed and not, do whatever. And one of the interesting things I found, so I'm looking forward to a time when
But people are gathering, are they? You're having
they're
people in
definitely
the
coming
church
together
regularly?
in small groups, basically. I mean, there's levels of stringentness of the rules, and we're in a pretty high level state as far as rules go, and of the state we're in a high level metro area, and so
Mm.
it just seems like we've got more rules, but people are gathering. And one thing I've noticed, I'm looking forward to implementing some of these things when we get done with all this, being able to say, hey, we're singing again. And when we did outdoor worship for our church for 16 weeks, people were so happy just to sing. And we're actually even trying Christmas Eve outdoors, even if it is going to be cold, just for that very reason, just so people can
Yeah.
sing in their cars or sing outside bundled up. But one of the
Yeah.
things that I've noticed is we've basically the last few weeks just taken this opportunity to say there's other ways to worship too. I mean, like, we're going to practice all these other things that usually we don't do because everybody's just pretty used to just singing. And so we've just said, here, we're going to make sure you guys, if you have trouble
Yeah.
clapping and singing, now's the time to learn how to clap. So we've just been pushing on that.
That's good. Yeah. I
So,
really don't like the overuse of the word worship connected too closely to our church music. That's actually a really recent invention. It's
mhm.
only about 40, 50 years old. Worship band, worship leader, worship song, worship, even things like worship service, like the event of worship is
Yeah,
older.
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, the word worship in the Bible is a verb, you do it.
Yep.
It's not a genre of music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
true.
I'm really hoping that COVID-19 in 2020, or I hope it doesn't slip too far into 2021. I guess we'll find out. But I really hope that this is a chance to hit the reset button, you know,
Mm,
on what we've been doing with music. For people like you and me, Tim, and people who are listening to this podcast, yes, we've had all these restrictions, and like some people aren't able to sing at all. Some people aren't able to gather. Some people are only gathering outside. I I think we're actually at a fork in the road as a church. I think people will either go, you know what, I didn't really miss that gathering in the room together and singing together very much. I'm just going to stay at home now. In fact, why would I watch my own church's stream service? I might as well watch someone who's really good at it.
mm, yeah,
And then like people watching their phones for a stream service, or sitting in a congregation where they're not allowed to sing. I hope the other fork in the road that people will take will be like, "Oh, I really missed gathering with other people of my church family. I
mm,
really miss singing worshipfully towards God. I really miss singing these prayers to him and singing these praises of him." And I hope that it's we musicians and singers, people who are involved in music, and the technicians, I would say, would take this chance to go, all right, we let a few things slip in that were kind of performancy and not really inviting the congregation to engage. Let's leave those things out. And now when we come back, let's really double down our focus and our intentionality on getting the congregation singing. Let's choose songs so that they sing. Let's choose keys so that they sing. Let's choose instrumentation so they sing. Let's project our lyrics so they sing. Let's mix in this room the audio so they are most likely to sing.
yeah.
Rather than, well, I like it this way. Well, I don't care what you like. I want it this way. Like, no, that has no place here.
Huh. Well, there's several awesome things that we just covered in this session here. I'm looking forward to pulling those out and
Wow.
getting everybody
Thanks, Tim.
on board. I appreciate your time of doing this. If people did connect with you on this More Than Music Mentor, what is
Mm.
like a couple of those things that offers to people? How does it help worship leaders in the church?
Yeah. Well, if you're interested to find out a bit more about what I do, then I realize we'd need to know each other first, so reach out to me. I've got a Facebook page, Grant Norsworthy, GrantNorsworthy. Tough for Americans, because I'm actually saying Grant Norsworthy. That's my fake American accent. So there's grantnorsworthy.com, morethanmusicmentor.com, the email address, the phone numbers, They're all for real. They'll come through to me, and let's get to know each other a little. But you might want to engage me to do some Zoom calls. You might want to engage me to do what I call remote coach. And when things settle down, as far as COVID goes, you might even want to have me come and do some in the room on-site training. But first, let's get to know each other. No effective ministry partnership happens out of anything except relationship. The only reason why Tim and I are talking is because we've got to know each other over 5 years or so. The only reason why he's had me on his podcast is because he trusts that I'm going to say some not stupid things. So yeah, reach out to me. But it's actually a lot of the stuff I would love to share with you are actually really, really simple and easy. And I'm not going to weigh you down with like heavy stuff.
Yep.
I feel like I've got things that I could offer you that are actually, I could do that. I call them forehead slappers,
Yeah.
Of course. Choose the key like that. Wow.
Yeah.
And once you've done it once, you never go back, right, Tim? Once you've chosen a key for the congregation, it's tough to go back because you go, I miss the people singing.
That's true. That's true.
But if you've never tried it, you don't know. You might think your congregation is fully engaged now, choosing the keys the way you want to, but I don't think you've tried the other way yet.
Yeah.
Give it a shot and then blow it out of the water if you still want to, but I don't think you will.
That is awesome.
Yeah, well, connect with me. Find me online. It's a small world on the internet, really. Find me and let's start a conversation. Look forward to hearing from you.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time on the Worship Leader Toolbox, and I'm happy and excited to share it with everybody that we're connected to and the hopefully growing group. And even if it's just one or two that get a lot out of this, that's awesome too. I know I have. Yeah. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yep. See you later.
Bye.
Wasn't that great? I appreciate you, Grant, being a part of the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast with us today, and it's been great to visit. Here's just a couple of the quotes that I wanted to pull out here. One is that one of the problems in the Christian church is that we hear a message that should change our lives, but nothing is ever asked of us. That's a good reminder that we need to ask people and challenge people to respond to the message and to worship. And another one is that another concept here, a couple of them, that we leave it to God to measure the heart. We don't have to worry about all those things. God looks on the inside, and we can only see the outside. And then this possibility of confusing success with significance, and just how we need to be defined by what God says and not what the world says. One thing that's probably stuck with me the most since this has been this measurable goal that we determined together as a worship team, from the computer presentation to the production, lighting and sound, down to the instrumentation and people who are singing. The main goal should be to get the congregation engaged in singing. And so if they're singing, then it's working. And if they're not, then we need to take a look and tweak something. So that's been great, and it's a practical thing to put together. So if you haven't gotten a chance, be sure to take a look at Grant's social media page to see the video of The Blessing out of New Zealand. And it's a virtual choir, and it's just really cool to see and to watch. And then I also just want to encourage you, if you haven't gotten a chance, Grant's presentation during the worship conference is still available on the worship conference tab on worshipleadertoolbox.com. And so once you get in there, then that's the first video, along with 10 or 12 other short, quick, practical worship leading videos. We'd love to have you join up with that. So once again, thank you for being a part of the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast. So thankful to have you, and blessings on your ministry.